Right, let's bring in the brilliant Isabel Oakeshott, Talk International editor. The one big question everyone is asking, how long can Starmer hang on?
Well, I mean, this story has been moving so fast all day. And this morning I thought he might not last 48 hours. He appears to have bought himself some time by basically the whips pretty much forcing all the cabinet ministers to come out and utter completely empty and phony expressions of support for Keir Starmer. We know that these are lies. They all came out within the space of about an hour with roughly the same form of words saying that they're fully behind Keir Starmer, when we know full well that several of them are plotting furiously to take over from him. So I'm in no doubt that he is mortally wounded, but it does look as if he may stagger on for another few days, maybe even another few weeks. The only reason why he would last any longer is because whoever comes to take over from him does not want a disastrous set of May election results on their watch. That is the only reason they are all using him, potentially, just to carry the can for that. He can't last any longer than that.
But, I mean, Isabel, please tell me, is there anyone who's not Angela Rayner or David Lammy, or frankly, I mean, Wes Streeting's all right, but is there anyone okay in that party who could be the Prime Minister? You know, the Prime Minister?
Mm-hmm. Well,
that little noise you made was priceless. I love that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm trying to think of a fair answer to that. I mean, of course, if you share our politics, which are somewhere to the right of loony lefty socialism, then the answer to your question is not really. I mean, I've never really bought into the sort of weird cult of Shabana Mahmood, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, supposedly hard as nails, who's made all these proclamations about what difference she's going to make, tightening up our borders and so on, and has only ever presided over continuation of the same trend, which is the worst set of illegal immigration by small boat figures of any prime minister. So in my view, no, there is no solution for our country other than a general election. But I'm afraid I'm only putting the chances of a general election at somewhere between 5 and 10%.
Well, yes, because turkeys don't vote for Christmas, and the government would have to approve of there being a general election, and they've got a big majority. So the Labour MPs are basically, at the moment, just plunging the country into chaos, a bit like the Conservatives enjoyed doing with their parlour games and musical chairs, while having no intention of giving up control or giving up their seats to actually have any sort of democratic voice in all of this. It's just they're turning us into a laughingstock again. I mean, we have been from the beginning because his governments are hopeless. But when I look at Labour as a whole, now, Starmer chills me to the bone, actually. I think the man isn't stupid. I think he's actually quite cunning. And I think he's very good at being a bit of a wolf in sheep's clothing. I think he's good at looking sort of bureaucratic and managerial and kind of municipal. But the lawyers, his cohort of lawyers he's known all his life, who are the ones behind some of the more egregious things, the televised post-Southport trials, the handing over the Chagos Islands, etc., they're scary people, in my mind, because of what they believe in and their track record as barristers. But at least Sir Keir Starmer is somebody. And it's a really low bar here. But at least he's somebody who can turn up to a G7 and it doesn't look mental. You know, and I don't like him and I don't like this government. But if we're not getting rid of the Labour government as a whole, I'd rather we just kept him.
In other words, you think he's the least worst option of a very bad lot. You know, I think there's a really interesting question about Angela Rayner, because she's going to be much better for the general jollity of political reporters than anyone else. You know, she's good. She's kind of good photograph. She's good copy. She'll say some fun things. But here's the truth. Oh, and by the way, she also has the most incredible set of real life experience. So if you're looking for a politician who can truly empathise, who can truly relate to the struggles of the most deprived people in our country. That is Angela Rayner. You know, she has had a remarkably tough upbringing and backstory. But the question is that enough? Is that enough? Is that an appropriate qualification for the highest job in the land?
If I was a producer, right? If I was a TV producer and I was like, I'm going to make a reality series called The Prime Minister on Netflix, a bit like they did for Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, AOC in America, when she was sort of a candidate. If I was looking to make some sort of strange behind-the-scenes, fly-on-the-wall documentary for titillation, yeah, Angela Rayner would be absolute top casting. But I don't want my Prime Minister to have a groovy ASOS wardrobe. I don't care if my Prime Minister has real-life experience, where they can spell, where they had a kid at 60. I just don't care. I don't mind if my Prime Minister is an absolute curmudgeon, like Winston Churchill. You know, Winston Churchill doesn't come across as a particularly fun man, let's be fair, apart from, you know, getting absolutely tanked by about midday. That I can get on board with. But, you know, I don't want nice. I don't want great lived experiences. I want somebody who is capable of steering a ship through some of the most tumultuous waters we've ever faced. And I just think if we end up with Rayner in number 10, Putin will be sitting there going, get in, this is hilarious.
Well, there certainly won't be anything to laugh about in reality for our country and the people that live in it. And, you know, the real worry is that she is so ideological that she sends all the wrong messages to sensitive financial markets. What markets hate is uncertainty. And the worry will be that she is so emphatically opposed to what she calls austerity. I'm not going to imitate her accent because it would come across as snobbish, but this is what she goes on about, that she will not contemplate anything that smacks of austerity. In other words, cutting the enormously bloated welfare state. On the contrary, she actually probably instinctively wants to expand the welfare state. And the problem is there is no way that we have at this point of paying for that. And if she isn't able to kind of hold those instincts in check and put the economic stability ahead of those reflexes, there could be a financial disaster.
I think we're looming towards that, whatever happens, quite frankly. But, you know, she has been one of the worst in that cabinet. You know, let's push to one side, even though we shouldn't, the whole tax furore over this second home, which isn't remotely near her constituency. It's about 250 miles away from the people she's supposed to represent, which doesn't really show much decency or decorum. But even if you put that to one side, she's the housing minister who built basically zero houses. You know, she came up with this workers' rights bill that will absolutely destroy every last vestige of the hospitality industry, because you'll have a load of litigation against landlords because a drunk man has said, all right, love, you look nice, or something. You know, it's... These people, they're not serious people. They're not serious people at all. And I don't care how nice someone is. I don't care if they were called a racist in the play. I don't care about any of those things. I just want a serious person doing this job. My gosh, sometimes I sit there and I'm like, can we just bring back Sunak? I didn't love Sunak, but my God, he was like, you know, stratospheres above this bunch.
Well, I mean, Sunak was very bright, we'll give him that. On Angela Rayner's house building record, just to be fair on her, she hasn't built no houses. She's built about 270, not she personally, but she has managed to get built about 275,000 new homes. Now, to be on track for her own target, which she said she was absolutely determined to achieve, she would need to be doing about double that amount every year, because her target is 1.5 million, and if we say that they're going to get 5 years, which I'm afraid they may end up getting in power, that's she's got to build an awful lot more at the rate that she is going.
Let's talk about Anas Sarwar now, because I've decided I don't like him. Quelle surprise. I don't like him because, you know, to call this emergency press conference as the leader of Scotland saying, well, you know, I do like him. We've got a genuine friendship. I wish I wasn't doing it. It's not without pain, but we can't go on having the sideshow and the distraction. I'm like, well, how about you take your cruddy little plinth and get back in your office then, son? You know, all these people, I wish I didn't have to do this. Like, it's just becoming so distracting every time someone like me turns up and says someone's got to resign. It's just put it away. I don't know. I hate it when politicians do this. You know, by all means, you can hate the leader of your party. You can have fiery debates as a group of politicians who come together, which I'm sure they're doing right now, as Starmer addresses the Labour MPs. But when you start dragging out your little podium to start calling for someone's resignation, saying it's a distraction, what?
Well, I think I was saying on Kev's show earlier, I mean, it is a bit different if you are based north of the border and, you know, they've got their own parliament and you've got a little bit more liberty to say it as it is. So I'm not sure I completely agree with your analysis there. You know, some people will regard what he did today, the leader of Scottish Labour, as quite honest. You know, to me, it rings a lot more true than the string of cabinet ministers who took to Twitter with their pre-prepared lines on social media saying that, you know, the worst possible thing for the country right now would be to have a change of prime minister. We know that's not what they really think, and yet they put it out there, taking us all for fools. At least Anas Sarwar is actually saying what everyone else is thinking.
Right, that's true, actually. He's stabbing him in the front rather than saying, we've got your back, and behind that back there's a dagger pointed at your spine. Let's have a little listen to Anas Sarwar from earlier.
This isn't easy, and it's long without pain, as I have a genuine friendship with Keir Starmer. But my first priority and my first loyalty is to my country, Scotland. And I am not willing to sacrifice Scotland's NHS, our schools, our communities, our towns, cities, villages and islands to a third decade of an SNP ground. That's why the distraction needs to end and the leadership in Downing Street has to change.
We can now also see Bridget Phillipson, who was talking about Anas Sarwar earlier on today on Sky.
Look, it was only 18 months ago that Keir secured a massive landslide victory for the party, secured a 5-year term to deliver that change. You know, change does take time, and we're all impatient for change to happen more quickly, including the voters. But Keir is getting on and doing that, and we as a government are getting on and delivering the change that we were elected to deliver. You know, just last week, we voted in Parliament to lift 450,000 children out of poverty through the changes that we are making. I announced our plans to roll out even more new free breakfast clubs across the country that will be a huge boost to working parents. That's what we ought to be focused on as a government. That's what people want to see. And whilst I have enormous respect for Anas, I've known him for a long time, I just profoundly disagree. I don't think this is the right approach, and I do believe Keir is the right person to lead our country.
What do you make of Wes Streeting? Because out of all of them, he's the one I think is the most plausible. He's the one that I personally like the most if there's going to be a Starmer replacement. I think it's quite a canny political move to publish his private texts with Lord Mandelson at the time that he did. First of all, to sort of say, yes, I own it, we were friends, we know each other. This is to demonstrate that there wasn't anything untoward going on, although if you're in control of the publication of those texts, you probably have a little bit of editorial overview as well. But also to time it for when Starmer is facing his own MPs. And one of the messages that just happened to slip out, didn't it, was a conversation between him and the Dark Prince about Sir Keir Starmer not having economic philosophy followed through in a programme of policies, which I tend to agree with. I mean, this government, especially when it comes to pulling together any sort of cohesive plan, when I think of the general election, the snap election, all they argued about was growth, 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 growth. Well, it isn't happening. And at least I kind of look at someone like Wes Streeting and I get the impression he's not necessarily of the extreme loony left. I still don't think he's Prime Minister material, but he's not Angela Rayner.
I mean, I would never describe Wes Streeting as loony left. I would say that he is on the sensible wing of the party, and it's a very small wing. If it were a plane, it would not be taking off because one wing would be so small. And he is on that wing. I'm afraid he's probably not going to make it all the way to number 10. He hasn't got the same level of support in not just in the parliamentary party, but among the grassroots members, as either Angela Rayner or Ed Miliband. And
oh no, I forgot about him. Oh,
yeah,
he's
sorry,
no.
we might have to talk about Ed Miliband. Sorry.
Oh gosh, no, he's the worst actually. Oh no, I don't know who's worse out of Miliband and Rayner.
Well, I think Miliband at least is smart, although smart can be dangerous if it's pointed in the wrong direction.
No, that's a bit...
ourselves there to the point we can't say any more. We're literally just like, oh, okay, this is it.
Oh dear. Let's take